About a week ago, I released a video on this particular platform, which was a snippet drawn from our Influencer's Guide to PowerPoint training course. And in it, we talked about how you go about focusing the attention of an audience on exactly what it is you want them to give attention to in your presentation packs. And to reinforce the point that we made in that particular video, your audience has a zillion things that they can give attention to, and what you want to do if you're going to be an effective influencer is be able to focus their attention on the things that you want them to focus on to. And it's a challenging thing, but it's something that you have to think about very carefully. Now, in that video, we spoke about the first 3 of the 5 strategies. Since that video, I've had so many questions from people about, what are the other 2? What other things work? How do you go about doing it in a way that is effective? Do the templates that you get in PowerPoint and those other applications, do they violate or they satisfy the needs for that? So what I'm going to do in this particular video in a second is give you the remainder of those strategies. So it's the final 2, and I think you'll appreciate these because the first 3 were fairly basic, and these final 2 are a little bit more comprehensive and significant when it comes to the delivery of information to people in a presentation pack. Now, before I do that, I just want to reinforce the point, in case you haven't seen that video. Your audience has so many things coming at them, right? There's stimulus and data coming in from all angles. And we have to be conscious of the different factors that affect what it is they focus their attention on consciously. And when we understand that, we can design our presentation packs in a way that guides their attention. Now, sadly, most of the templates that you look at in packages such as PowerPoint violate those principles because they're more about the aesthetics than creating stickiness in people's brains on messages that you're delivering. So generally speaking, the templates are not what we use, so we create our own. The other thing to think about is, well, how many things can people give attention to? There's some suggestion, depending on where you read it, right, it's 7 plus or 2 minus things, or it's 5 plus or 2 minus things. What we've found over the years in working with people in conferences and audiences and doing little experiments with people, it's generally in this 5 plus or 2 minus 5 plus or minus 2 things that people can give attention to. So it's 3 to 7 things at any given point in time that they can be consciously aware of. As more stimulus comes in, some stuff's going to drop out, and that's just the nature of the beast. We have limited channel capacity as an average human being. Of course, there are exceptions, but very few of us have those exceptions. So with that in mind, what I want to do is show you these final 2 attention focusing strategies that you would utilize in your PowerPoint presentation, and this is drawn from our Influencer's Guide to PowerPoint course. Number, if you look at the screen here, there is an optimum number of things that you actually can present to people, but the point we're trying to make here is, on the left it's just a big higgledy-piggledy mass of dots. On the right hand side it's just 3. It's much easier, right, to take your eyes to the right hand side, look at the 3 and you see 3 and you probably remember 3. But on the left hand side it's just almost overwhelming. It's too much information, there's not much contrast, they all blend in, and it's not really going to do anything attention wise. So as I said, I will expand on this concept of numbering or number of items on a screen in a later lesson when we talk about how many do you actually present to people, how many messages, how many key points do you actually make. So, but number can be utilized to draw people's attention. The final one I want to talk about, and this is modality. Now, what's a modality? Think of the senses, your senses, as modalities. They're modes through which you take in information, right? You can do it through touch, right? I can feel the surface of this table here. You can do it visually, you can do it auditorily, you can do it through smell, you can do it through taste. So modalities relate to these, and the most common form of modality utilized in presentations is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, I can utilize these to guide people's attention, particularly in situations when a person has a preference, and most of us do, towards a particular modality. You know, someone who's more visual is going to be more drawn towards the visual aspects of the presentation, while someone who's more touchy-feely is going to be more drawn towards how you make them feel about it, or the touch of things and the way things feel to them. Then you've got the auditory side of it. Now, I want to separate these 3 so that you understand the distinction between these. The top left-hand side or the left-hand side of the slide in front of you
you've got 3 dots. That is visual, right? Obviously. So it's 3 things that you can see visually. Now, the top right-hand side, or the very top of it, you see 3 circles of grey colour written there. People say that's visual too. I go, no, it's not. That is not visual, because you take that information by speaking it to yourself. When you read that, you actually speak it to yourself. It's an auditory stimulus. So if you have written words up on a screen, that is auditory when people read them. Now, most people don't look at things and remember the visual aspects of it. They remember the sound of the sentence. The bottom right-hand side there is a combination of things. It's starting to drift into kinesthetic, in that in order for you to capture the spaces there. So for example, let's just say I gave you a handout and you had that written there on your handout. You got 2 spaces. If I had that on the screen, or I wrote that on a flip chart and I said 3 circles of grey colour, if I said that, the audience, to capture that information, would write it down. They would write grey in the space, and they would write circles in the space that it relates to. And that is kinesthetic. And this is an important concept, because we're going to talk about this a little bit later. The way that you go about creating stickiness in a message is you start to combine these things. You have a visual stimulus associated with an auditory input, associated with a kinesthetic experience in some way. And if you can combine those 3, you can create an incredible stickiness of the message that you're trying to get across. But I will talk a little bit more about that later. Suffice to say that the left-hand side, 3 dots, is visual, top is auditory, and the bottom can be kinesthetic as people start to fill in the spaces. So let me wrap this up by giving you a bit of a recap on the 5 strategies for focusing attention. Number 1, contrast, right? The contrast, the word there is being contrasted against the grayscale of all the other stuff on the screen. The second one is colour. Colour can be utilised to draw people's attention, particularly colours that people associate importance to, like bright yellow, red, very bright green, things like that. Pastels would be contrasted against those colours. The third one is size. Something as large is going to get someone's attention over something that is very similar but smaller. The fourth one, the number of things you actually use or present. And we'll talk about that a little later. How many is the right things? And the last one is modality, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. You can highlight things, particularly for visual people, by showing them a picture. You can combine a picture with an auditory conversation so that the 2 start to create stickiness in there. So there you go, 5 strategies for focusing attention. I will see you in the next video.
There you go. That's the final 2 strategies that we would think about when we're developing a PowerPoint presentation. If you want more information about this particular course, then simply go to the website, right? Look for the information about the Influencer's Guide to PowerPoint course, and the place to go this month is 9skillsfactory.com/course of the month. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in another video.